All right. Hey, good to see everybody this morning. Obviously, fall camp's in the air. This is my favorite time of year. Seeing the guys, how hard they've worked, obviously in spring, and talking to you guys after that. And then, obviously, their attention to detail and their hard work during their summer. And then, obviously, being able to get back on the practice field with them. It's by far my favorite time of the year. I think overall, I think we're in a good place. I think coming out of spring and coming out of the summer, I feel like defensively they worked extremely hard. I feel like there is the attention to detail, obviously, that coach demands that we need to be successful and continue the success on defense that Alabama and Coach Saban has always had. I think, obviously, we do have to replace several guys from last year that were some key players and some good players. I think we did have some depth last year and some younger players that learned a lot, from those veteran guys that left, that are in a good place that we have to continue to develop and get better and be able to play winning football. But I think the biggest thing is I think we're seeing some of these older guys now that are seniors and juniors fill in those leadership roles. And I think that's obviously something very critical to our success, and especially with the recruiting class that we had and some freshmen we had last year, it really helps in their development. I think it's one thing from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, you're coaching them, you're trying to teach them, but for that to come from their peer and a guy that's been through what they've been through and has been in the system and kind of help them understand what to expect and how things work around here, I think some of our older guys right now at every level of the position are doing an extremely good job with their young players, and I think that'll be critical, obviously, early in their development. Obviously, I'm excited about a new role here this year. I think I was very fortunate early in my career to be able to call some defense and be around some good guys. Obviously, being under Coach Saban has been an icon for me my entire coaching career. I've always studied the University of Alabama and studied Coach Saban, not only from a leadership standpoint, but obviously very much from an X and O standpoint. So it's been awesome for me to be under him and to learn from him. And then the staff I feel like he's assembled to help us get back to where it should be. Those guys are great football coaches, but I think they're better men. And I think it's awesome being in the room with them, the knowledge they have, the leadership they have, the experience they have. I think they bring a lot to the table. So collectively, I like where we're at going into fall camp.
Okay, we'll start right back with you, Charlie.
You mentioned those older guys. What have you seen from Josh McMillan throughout your 2 years here, and what do you think he needs to do to secure that spot opposite of Dylan?
Yeah, I think Josh is a very intelligent kid. Obviously, he's an engineering major, but football comes easy to him. He understands the X's and O's and all those things. So my biggest message to Josh, and it has been, and I think what he's doing now, is he's having the ability to affect the 10 guys around him. I think the biggest thing at that position from an athletic standpoint, right, we've got guys that are more athletic than he is, and he knows that, and I've told him that, all right, but his ability to get guys lined up, make the calls, and then he's smart enough based on a formation and a back set tendencies that we'll give him, and he studies that he can anticipate things, which allows him to performance align and be able to make some plays that athletically maybe other people couldn't, just because he understands obviously what's coming. But I think his biggest thing, all right, and his biggest role for us is to be able to affect the other 10 guys on the field. And he's on, take command, be in charge, be loud, be able to affect the guys around you, and then make the plays you're supposed to make. I think that's the biggest thing. He can't make any plays against us, all right? So I think that's the biggest thing. I think at the second level, obviously it's affecting the guys around you, getting everybody on the same page, making the plays you're supposed to make. So I think that's the biggest thing for Josh.
Okay, we'll go back left to Aaron.
Coach, we all know Quentin Williams played great football last year. Isaiah Buggs was really productive. But could you play more bodies? Could you rotate more guys on the defensive line this year because of the young guys maybe you have?
Yeah, obviously. I think defensively you want to play as many guys as you could play, whatever the position, right, as long as they're ready. And I think obviously defensively, I think you look at what guys can do, not what they can't do. So I think from a personnel standpoint and different packages obviously that we have and that we will have will allow guys to be able to do what they do well instead of having to learn the entire package, especially for young players coming in here, right? To obviously ask them to do something that they can do to help us in certain situations, all right, based on down and distance and the personnel. But I think the biggest thing is for us, right, is we got to be able to trust that guy to do what he's supposed to do when he's on the field. And I think that's the bottom line, all right, is earning that trust, and that's done in practice, and that's done every day, and that's done in the meeting room, all right, and just paying the attention to detail. So we're going to try to play as many guys up front that we can play winning football with. Whatever number that ends up being, we're not going to know, obviously, until we show up at Duke. But I think our job as coaches is try to develop that every day to where you're developing the bottom half of your roster to where now you can rotate guys to obviously try to not save them, right, but be able to sustain within the fourth quarter with your best players. But I think the biggest thing as coaches is, we can't put a guy out on the field that's not ready to play. And I think that goes back to coaching. We got to develop and get them ready to play. It's our job.
Stay on that side with Ryan.
Why has Southeast Louisiana been or Southeastern been a incubator for coaches at this program? How much did you guys learn in the defensive scheme that maybe is used here, or get at least the foundation of it, and during your time there?
Yeah. I have no idea how many guys from Southeast have been here. I have no idea. But there's been more than one? Okay, I got you. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, obviously, I think defensively, right, regardless of where you were at, right, I think it's a different philosophy here. And I think that was the one thing I was most excited about with having the opportunity to come to Alabama is learn Coach Saban's philosophy. All right, so obviously there's a lot of things that are similar to things that you've done. It might be different from a terminology standpoint in those things. I think, obviously, from a personnel grouping, we were very similar there in the things that we did from a 3-4 standpoint and getting in a nickel and getting into the 4-2, both odd and even. So I think that helps you when you come into the system, be able to understand, hey, this is same as this. But to me, it's a completely different concept because you got a completely different guy running it, and it's the best guy to ever do it. So that was what was exciting about me. You've got a defense, you run a defense a certain way for so long. Well, I want to learn a different way how to do it. And then that way, whether you're here or you leave here or whatever it is, right, then you kind of merge those things. I think that's the best thing about Coach Saban that he does, right? His defense has worked and it's been successful for a long time. But he's still looking every offseason, how can we get better? What do we need to change? All right, what part of our package did we not do well last year based on tendencies? And then what can we change? Let's go find the best way to do it. Let's get in a room. Let's put our thoughts together. And when we leave here, this is how we're going to do it. So the most exciting thing to me is not what I've done, but it's what I've learned here and have the ability to continue to do.
You talked in your opening about depth. Are there any concerns about depth in this defense this year, and where have you seen improvements in that?
I mean, I think obviously that's what fall camp's for. I think coming off of day one, I thought we had a lot of guys that did some good things. We've got a long way to go, but I think that's what fall camp's for. I think every day we got to go out. We got to get these young players into the can-do category, meaning they can do what they're supposed to do, allow us to be able to play winning football, and we got to continue to do that every day. And I think obviously in this game, you never know from a depth standpoint whether you're good or not because you don't know with injuries. All right, you just don't know. So, our job is to get everybody in that room at every position, knowing what they're supposed to do. Who do I look at? Who do I key? What's my footwork? What's my eye progression? So there's a bottom line. They're here for a reason. They're one of the best athletes and the best football players in the country. All right, we got to get them to where they're not thinking on the field. All right, so that's our job from a coaching standpoint, right, to teach them, to coach them, to call certain things, all right, to cater to what do well, right, and not ask a guy to do something that he can't do. So I think a lot of that, when you start talking about depth, it depends on what you're asking a guy to do, first what personnel grouping and what package. So I think you can create depth by different packages, asking guys to do what they do well, all right, but depending upon, obviously, what the down and distance is in the game. So I think right now we're taking a day at a time. We're taking it one practice at a time, one meeting at a time, and we're trying to develop everybody on our roster.
Come back over here, Charlie, on the right.
You talked earlier about that veteran leadership. Just what does a guy like Anthony Jennings mean to this team, not only on the field but off it as a leader?
Yeah, I think, when you talk about an Alabama defense, to me, just watching it over the years and studying it, I think when you watch it, it's a relentless effort. It's guys that are just mentally tough, regardless whether it was a tackle for a loss or he missed the tackle, how he lines up, how he plays the next play. And then the physical toughness part of it, like when you play Alabama and you see that on tape, how physical those guys are. And that doesn't start on Saturday. And that's done every day. And that's Anthony Jennings to me, right? Whether it's individual, whether it's team run, right? Whether we're going 11 on 11 or it's Saturday, it's the same speed. He's got the most focus in the meetings, his attention to detail, he busts his butt, and it shows up on Saturday. So to me, he's got out what he's put in. And I think it's invaluable to have a guy like that is a good player, right? Because we've been several places that guys do that aren't great players and they don't catch everybody's eye. That's still a good player that day in and day out, he's the hardest working guy. I think, it goes a long, long way. So I think his hard work, his dedication, I think that builds into his leadership. And I think he now has the ability to hold other people accountable because he does everything what he's supposed to do.
Back to Steven.
Good morning, Coach. How you feeling?
Good, baby. How you?
Doing good. You've been on a grind for a while, even before coming to Alabama, and a lot of people equate age with maturity, but even in youth, when you got that work ethic, it kind of works the same way. What's been the biggest thing you've taken from your time prior to Alabama that's got you to where you're not only confident you can do this job, but you know within yourself that these guys are about to get the best coaching?
Yeah, man, I think obviously I played Division II football. Y'all know that. You know, I GA'd one semester and then got my first DC job at 22. And I've never looked at where I was at, where I was trying to go. And, you know, my old man was a high school football coach for a long time. And whatever I was going to do, I was all in where I was at. I've never called another guy for another job. I didn't have it calling agents, doing all that BS. I'm here to coach football, regardless where it's at, whether it's Tusculum College, Delta State, Southeast. It don't matter. I like coaching football. I like developing young men. I ain't worried about my next job. It's my job to do the best job I can where I'm at. And I've done that my entire career, and I've been fortunate enough more than others. And there's a lot of great coaches out there that haven't got the opportunity that I got. And I'm very fortunate and lucky to be in the place I'm at. But I keep my head down. I do what I'm supposed to do. I try to be the best coach I can, develop my position, affect the people around me, find new ways of doing things, stay on the cutting edge. But I'm not worried about the next job. And whether I'm at Tusculum or Alabama, the preparation and how I coach the players is going to be exactly the same.
Back over to Cecil.
Hey, Coach Golding. Coach Saban talks about having big guys up front, how, you know, it's important to rotate guys, keep guys fresh, and that probably on the defensive line will require playing some younger guys. Do you have you probably don't have a number in mind, but do you feel like you have enough of those younger guys that can contribute up front?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think we had some young guys last year that learned a lot throughout the season and progressed drastically from fall camp to bowl practice and into spring ball, and I think they took a lot of strides. And obviously we're really excited about, you know, the recruiting class of those 5 to 6 guys that we brought in. You know, some of them were here in spring, and then some of them got here in the summer. And obviously I think the biggest thing is having, obviously, the ability to do my job, okay? But I think a lot of those guys from a talent standpoint can play the game. All right, so then it's getting them in shape, which Coach Cocker's done an unbelievable job all summer. And then it's our job as coaches to where they don't make plays against us. But there's no question, right, I think you're going to see a lot of new faces out there, but it's our job to prepare those guys and get them ready to do it. So absolutely, I think some young guys are going to obviously have to play. I think they're in a better situation than they have been because they got some older guys in that room that are going to help them. All right, so obviously Coach Baker does a great job with them, but I think they got some older guys in that room that are going to help the development process and just relieving some of the anxiety because they've been through it and to help some of those younger guys come along. So absolutely, I think you'll see some new faces and some rotations. We'll see through camp.
Just a couple real quick.
What kind of growth have you seen out of Josh Jobe now that he has a full year under his belt with the defense, and what are the biggest things that you'll be working with him to grow in during fall camp?
Yeah, I thought Josh made some big strides last year. I mean, I thought he came into that Clemson game by the end of the year and played pretty well versus, you know, some of the best players in the country. So I think obviously being a defensive back in this system, obviously there's a lot of different coverage concepts that are based on the formations and motions and things like that. So I felt like he started getting a lot more comfortable, you know, once we started getting into the bowl practices of the understanding of the coverage concepts and the integrity of coverages. And then once we got into the spring, obviously his knowledge improved, so I thought his confidence improved. Because from a skill set standpoint, he's long, he can run, he's got ball skills, he's competitive. I think he's everything that you're looking for and coaches looking for in a corner. So obviously I think he played well during spring. I think that transition to summer, I think he's had one of the best summers of any of our guys. And then obviously now into fall camp, I think he's going to continue to progress on that. But absolutely, I think his confidence has improved because his understanding of what we're asking him to do has improved. And so I think that will have to continue to improve. And then obviously anybody on the back end, right, is eliminating explosive plays. And normally that's through a mental error, right, a bust in coverage with a lack of communication or an eye discipline standpoint, right, to where I'm not keying my match, my eyes on the quarterback. So I think all those, I think he's starting to become more veteran at and learning from mistakes, obviously, that he's made and other guys have made. So I think we're happy with where he's at now, but he's got to continue to develop and improve.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.